couple arrives at a house in the mountains at night. They step out happily, holding hands, while their son stares at them intently. And so the story begins. Welcome to Random Recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap the movie. The American couple, Louise and Ben Dalton, along with their daughter Agnes, are vacationing in Italy. During their stay, they notice a happy family also enjoying their vacation, and they seem to run into them everywhere. While walking around the city, Agnes loses her stuffed bunny. Ben searches the entire city, but in the end, the other family finds it. That's when they meet the British family made up of Patty, Kira, and their son Ant. This family invites the Daltons to a restaurant, where they talk about their lives and become friends. Ben tells them they moved to London for work. Patty shares that he is a doctor who works with Doctors Without Borders. Agnes goes off to play with Ant, and Kira tells them she's glad her son gets along with someone since Ant has a condition that makes his tongue smaller than normal. The Daltons return to London, where we learn the couple is going through problems because Ben is unemployed and also found a picture of a man's genitals on Louise's phone.
You poor, ugly thing, you.
One night, they receive a letter from Patty inviting them to spend a weekend at his remote countryside home. Ben wants to go, hoping that a change of scenery will benefit them as well as Agnes, who suffers from anxiety and is very attached to her stuffed bunny. Louise is unsure about going to the home of someone they barely know, but eventually decides to trust Ben's judgment. On the way, they see a drawing of a man with a huge thing on the mountain.
That's a penis!
When they arrive at night, the family receives a warm welcome. They even had food prepared for them, a goose they had raised and cooked. But the problem is they did this knowing Louise is a vegetarian. On top of that, Patty makes her take a bite, which Louise later spits out. Later, while taking out the trash, Ant tries to talk to Ben, but because of his condition, he can't. Then, the two couples smoke a joint together, and Louise hears Ant screaming, though Patty and Kira say it's normal due to his condition. Before going to bed, Louise tells Ben she finds it strange that a doctor lives in such a house and that she's starting to feel uncomfortable with their behavior. Ben reassures her that everything will be fine and they just need to get used to how they live. Their daughter, unable to sleep due to her anxiety, ends up sleeping with them. The next day, the two families go for a walk in the woods. They light a campfire and, for a while, everything seems fine. But then Louise and Ben notice how Patty mistreats his son when Ant asks if he can play with Agnes. Louise starts to feel a pain in her neck. To alleviate it, Patty takes them to jump into a river, even though Ant can't swim. Louise is so uncomfortable that she doesn't want to jump. Later, back at the house, Louise can't stand staying with them anymore and wants to use her neck pain as an excuse to leave. At that moment, Kira comes in to invite them to dinner. The couple agrees, but as they are about to leave, they notice that Patty and Kira hired a babysitter named Mudgett to look after the kids. Louise feels uneasy, but Ben reassures her, so they go to dinner. Patty and Kira take them to a restaurant where they are the only guests, and the chef is a friend of theirs named Mike. Louise reminds them that she's a vegetarian, and Patty says he feels like an idiot for serving her goose the other night. But then Patty challenges Louise's vegetarianism, making her uncomfortable. Meanwhile, the kids are playing hide and seek with Mudgett. While Mudgett is counting, Ant shows Agnes his father's collection of watches. One of them has a message written in a language Agnes doesn't understand. In a playful tone, Patty and Kira simulate a sexual act, role-playing as a hot waitress and an attractive customer, which makes the couple uncomfortable. In the end, they let Ben pay for everything.
What the hell?
Ant shows Agnes some scars before their parents return. But when they arrive, Patty checks his watches and notices one is out of place. Meanwhile, Louise and Ben argue about their unstable relationship, eventually resolving their differences and apologizing. Later, while they're sleeping, Louise wakes up to check on her daughter, but when she enters her room, she's not there. Terrified, she searches the house, only to find her daughter sleeping with Patty and Kira.
FBI, open up!
Horrified, Louise wakes Ben up and they decide to leave the house. On the way, Agnes can't find her stuffed bunny. Because of Agnes's anxiety about not having her bunny, the couple decides to go back for it. Ben gets out of the car to retrieve the bunny, and worried, Louise follows. Patty asks why they left. Ben, being a coward, lies, saying they left because their daughter doesn't like sleeping in such a small bed. Louise becomes angry and furiously tells them that their daughter was sleeping with them. Kira confesses that she was the one who put Agnes in their bed. She explains that they once had a daughter named Mary who died at 12 weeks old, and when she heard Agnes crying out for her parents, Kira felt the urge to help her, feeling like a protective mother.
I don't believe you.
She apologizes for her behavior. Agnes retrieves her stuffed bunny, and to keep the peace, the Daltons decide to stay. While Kira and Louise watch their kids together, Aunt writes a note to Agnes, but she can't understand what it says.
I don't understand, and I can't read it.
Seeing that Aunt is trying to say something to Agnes, Kira gets up, making Aunt nervous, and he eats the note. Agnes tells her mother about the note Aunt swallowed, but she assumes he's just traumatized by his condition. Meanwhile, Ben and Patty go hunting, and Patty reveals he overheard them fighting. To help Ben release his frustrations, Patty takes him to a hill to scream. Later, while cooking, Louise cuts her finger. Ben asks Patty to check if she's okay, and Patty then admits that he isn't a doctor. In fact, he's nothing, just a guy who doesn't work and survives by selling marijuana and cider to the locals. But he was only joking.
Of course I'm a bloody doctor. How else could we afford all this?
I don't believe you.
During dinner, Kira starts giving orders to Agnes as if she were her mother, which upsets Louise. Kira apologizes, and things are calm again, though the tension rises once more when Aunt and Agnes perform a dance routine they've been practicing, and Patty gets angry at his son for not doing it right. Louise confronts Patty and Kira about how they treat their son, then storms out of the room. Louise wants to leave the house and calls Ben a coward for not standing up to Patty.
Jesus, Ben, you have no problem standing up to me, but you won't say shit to him.
Louise informs Kira that they are leaving, but Kira asks them to wait until Patty wakes up. Aunt takes advantage of his father's nap to steal a key that unlocks a shed. Aunt pretends to play with Agnes to lead her to the shed, where he shows her a secret room filled with suitcases and personal belongings of various families. Using a photo album, Aunt reveals to Agnes that Patty and Kira aren't his real parents, but serial killers who lure families to their country home, rob and murder them, then cut out their children's tongues to use them as bait for their next victims. He shows her that the same thing will happen to her.
Run, bitch! Run!
Agnes takes pictures of the album and they leave the shed. Aunt returns to replace the key, but finds Patty awake. Aunt convinces him to give him a piggyback ride. Meanwhile, Agnes pretends to have her period so she can speak to Louise privately. Agnes shows Louise the pictures she took and tells her everything. While Patty plays with Ben, he realizes that the family knows the truth.
We're screwed. Okay? We're screwed.
Louise, terrified, leaves her daughter in the bathroom and pretends everything is fine, while asking Ben to come with her. They tell Ben everything. There, Louise finds a cutter to defend herself, and terrified, they decide to fake that Agnes has her period so they can leave. The Dalton family is about to leave, but when they reach the car, they find that the tires are slashed. Obviously, it was Patty and Kira, but they pretend to be surprised. Patty helps Ben change the tire. To mock them, they place Agnes's stuffed bunny on the roof, pretending they didn't do it. Patty helps Ben retrieve it, but by then, the bunny is torn apart. When the family finally almost escapes the farm, Patty throws Aunt into a pond. Ben stops to save him. Patty and Kira take the opportunity to kidnap the Daltons. They force the family to transfer their savings to them, then plan to kill them and cut out Agnes's tongue. But at one point, Louise takes out the cutter and hurts Patty, then disarms Kira. Total giga-chad. Aunt steals Patty's key, and they lock the two inside. But then their accomplice Mike, the restaurant chef, shows up and shoots at them.
Aw, for the love of crud!
The family rushes inside to call the police while Mike frees the couple. Louise manages to contact the police, but at that moment, Kira cuts the line. Ben starts crying like a coward, and Louise tries to get him to pull himself together.
Your family needs you.
Patty and Kira cut the power to scare them. Ben comes up with the idea to use the alcohol in the house to make a Molotov cocktail to light the roof on fire in hopes that someone will see them, but it fails. Ben and Louise lock the kids in a closet for their safety, while they search for something to defend themselves against the crazed couple. Mike climbs the roof to enter the house. Patty and Kira also manage to get in. Ben and Louise hide while the others search for them. When Patty finds Louise, she wounds his arm and hides again. Patty thinks he hears something in a closet, but it's just a trap, and Louise fills him with drain cleaner. The kids come out of the closet and run with Louise to the second floor, but there they encounter Mike. Ben once again becomes useless when he tries to attack Mike and can't beat him, so Louise has to come and save him. Patty sends Kira to deal with the family. The family is about to escape through the roof when Kira arrives, and just as she's about to shoot them, Louise, once again carrying the team, makes Kira fall. Ben jumps down to set up the ladder for the others to descend. Agnes goes down first and heads to the car, but Patty finds her and wants to keep her, saying she's the only thing he has left. Just as he's about to shoot Ben and Louise, Agnes injects him with ketamine, which I have no idea where she got from, leaving Patty paralyzed. Before leaving, Ant, furious and seeking revenge, grabs a brick and smashes Patty's face. And finally, the family and Ant manage to escape the farm. Agnes, who seemingly no longer has anxiety, lets go of her stuffed bunny and gives it to Ant, who silently cries. And that's how the movie ends.